My name's Lisa and I'm a home educating mum of two, and one of the questions that I get asked a lot of the time is how much work should I be doing with my children at home and how many resources should I be providing every day to make sure that they're getting enough learning time. Stay tuned for the next few minutes and I'm going to be telling you why it's virtually impossible to compare learning time in home education or homeschooling compared to learning time in mainstream school. So let's start with an example if your children were in a school setting. So I read on various sites advising of the curriculum that primary school children usually do around 15 minutes of reading every day in a school setting. I spoke to one of my good friends about this, who'd been a primary school teacher for many, many years. And I said to her, obviously, my children are, well, they were 5 and 7 at the time. And I said, 15 minutes of reading a day seems quite a lot, because even their concentration span to read for 15 minutes is quite a lot at that age. And what she told me was really, really interesting. And she said that even though they are practicing reading or they are sat focused on reading for 15 minutes, each child doesn't actually read for 15 minutes a day in a school setting. So she said what used to happen at her school is every day she would take a group of 4 or maybe 5 children and they would go over and sit round a table with a reading book, and each of the children would then take it in turns to read a little bit of their reading book each at a time. Now, like she said, obviously it's difficult because some children read a lot quicker than other children, some children needed more help than other children, and sometimes the child who was maybe 4th or 5th didn't really get a turn that day because the children who were in front of them just took a little bit longer to get their paragraph or their sentence or their page read. So she said, although they tried to focus for 15 minutes on a group of children for reading, each child doesn't actually do reading for 15 minutes. So if you're new to home education and you're like me and you go on the internet and you research the curriculum, things like that can be really misleading. So when you start home educating and you've got a 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old and keeping their attention span for 5 minutes is a task, let alone 15 minutes, you can start to feel really overwhelmed and like you're not doing things right because you're trying to compare your home education learning to mainstream school learning, when in actual fact, just from the example that I gave you there, they are completely different. The next example that I'm going to show you is one in a workbook that we use. So for maths and English, my kids like a mix of play-based learning, workbook learning and hands-on learning. So we do try and shake it up a bit and vary it a little bit, but we do use these CGP books for maths and English. They are really good, really colourful, and the kids seem to like them. Now this is the maths one, and as you can see there, it's for year 1, which is my little boy's age. He's 6, and it says in here that each one of these pages should take around 10 minutes to complete, I presume in a school setting, because they are catered, and it just says here that the book is split into sections, and there's 12 different sections, and then there's 5 tests, as they call it, for each week, and each of the tests should last around 10 minutes. Now, to show you one of these, which is one that we'll be getting to shortly, you can see there this is addition and subtraction one. So there's 5 questions on there. This is the one before it. So this one is circling 2 numbers that add up to 10, and as you go through them there's like various different ones. So this one is all about subtraction and things like that. Now my little boy is, say, 6, and he can do around 4 pages in about 15 minutes in this book. So to think that in a school setting he would only be doing 1 page per 10 minutes, you can see how varied children who are working in a school setting and children who are working in a home education or homeschool setting can actually be. So this can be for many, many factors. The main factor is that obviously the school curriculum is tailored to be a one-size-fits-all, which means that the learning provided is done in one style. If your child is lucky enough to get that style, they'll probably progress really well. Unfortunately, a lot of children don't respond well to that style, which means that learning can take an awful lot longer. In home education, obviously, you can tailor your learning towards your child. So for example, my little boy likes maths, he's into maths, he gets numbers, so we can, tailor the work that he's doing. He really enjoys it. I know the kind of workbooks that he likes, I know the kind of tasks he likes, I know the kind of play-based learning that he likes, and that's why he gets through the learning a lot quicker than he probably would in a school setting. I'm guessing that my little boy would probably get a little bit bored and his attention would definitely wane if he was having to wait 10 minutes for other people to do a page when he'd done it in like 2 or 3 minutes. The second main reason why you can't really compare home education learning time to school learning time is because obviously in schools, teachers are so stretched. They very rarely have help or have assistance. If they do, they generally have to share them with other classes. Some classroom sizes can be 30 children plus. So you've got one teacher who is trying to get around 30 children and help those 30 children. And obviously that is just a mammoth task, because if they set the children on with one of these tests, as they call them, and on the very first question, 2 or 3 children get stuck and they put their hand up, the third or fourth or fifth or sixth or whatever order you put your hand up in is going to be sat waiting for that one person to get to them before they can progress and do the rest of the questions. Whereas with home education or homeschooling, the parents generally only have, like I have 2 children, some people have 1 children, some people have 3 or 4 children, but even so, it's a lot easier to dedicate your time between 1, 2, 3 or 4 children than it is for 30 children. So I think it's really, really important, especially for people who are considering home education or just starting out with home education, to realise that you can't really compare learning in a school setting to learning in home education. So if you would be interested in checking out some of my recent home education blogs, you can head over to my website. You can find the link in the bio. And if you've got any questions, any comments, or if there's anything else that I can help you with regarding home education, please just drop me a message, drop me a DM, drop me a comment, and I'll do my best to respond to you.